Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Please confirm if you can hear me.
Please go ahead, we're going ahead.
Okay. Again, it's 12 p.m. West African time on the dot, and we would proceed. So welcome to the fourth edition of the 54 Sparks Clean Cooking webinar, brought to you by Tobera Energy Limited in partnership with the Energy Nexus Network and the Veronica Anthony Foundation.
When we can't hear you.
When your device is mute, we cannot hear you any longer.
Okay, thank you everyone again for joining in. While we wait for Wem to sort out her connection, maybe she's having bad connection. Welcome again to 54 Sparks, Cook to Save. My name is Anthony, and we're happy that you could make our time to join us today. And the 54 Sparks webinar is aimed at exploring the evolving landscape of clean cooking and its emerging technologies in Africa. And this is the fourth edition of the webinar. It happens twice every month. And we are happy and excited to welcome you to join us for this webinar session. And I'll soon be handing you over to our moderator for today, who is P. Esukiko Conte. She's an engineer and who has excelled in many positions as a clean cooking expert, and also she has carried out many clean cooking projects. Top of them, she was part of the team that developed the first Nigerian e-cookbook. She also worked on the market readiness assessment for Nigeria and Sierra Leone in terms of looking at the market to see how ready these two countries are to scale e-cooking solutions. So I'll be handing you over to her. The topic of today, of course, is financing and investments in clean cooking, where we'll explore public and private initiatives towards promoting clean cooking in Africa. So let me not take much of your time anymore. I'll swiftly hand you over to her, where she will introduce the activities of today. Please, if you can hear me, you have the floor, please. Thank you. Hello, Esu, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I am so sorry. Good morning, good afternoon. From wherever you are joining from, it's a beautiful Thursday afternoon here in Nigeria, Port Harcourt specifically. My name is Esukubu Quincy, and I will be taking us through the financial landscape of clean cooking investments across Africa. So for today's webinar, as exciting as all the other ones have been, we're going to be doing something very unique, very unique actually, because financing clean cooking in Africa has been a major challenge when it comes to the adoption of clean cooking technologies across various countries and implementation of clean energy technologies, of course. So it has actually reduced energy access, especially to the rural areas where we find that cooking with dirty fuels is most dominant. So after we have taken the welcome address, of course, Engineer Anthony has done that for us. Thank you so much, sir. I'm going to be introducing our panelists. We are going to be looking at landscapes and case studies across different countries in Africa, different companies, how they have actually scaled through with investing in clean cooking around Africa. After that, we'll be taking 4 questions very quickly. And then, of course, we'll begin the panel discussions. We'll take question and answer. And then we'll do a little bit of information session where we'll be sharing opportunities around clean cooking with you. And then we will take the closing remarks. So in order not to waste so much of your time, I'll be introducing the very first panelist. I know that you are on the call, Mr. Arigo. Mr. Arigo is a very passionate economist. I have listened to him speak about carbon markets, and it was very inspiring. He currently leads the climate finance and carbon projects at Clean Technology Hub, and he focuses on originating and facilitating investment deals for high impact climate positive ventures in Nigeria. I know that he has worked on several projects, including clean cooking technologies across Nigeria, of course. He has significant experience in investments and research, project development, economic analysis. He has also supported innovative projects with finance and support to advance sustainable development in Nigeria. Being passionate about structured finance and leveraging development finance instruments, Mr. Arigo seeks opportunities to support financial syndication, ESG investments, capital mobilization aimed at promoting sustainable development in Africa. Mr. Arigo, if you're here, it would be really nice to have you say hi. Just tell us a little bit.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you very much for that introduction. I don't have anything to say currently. She has already done a good introduction. So happy to be here and happy to contribute as well as learn from others. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arigo. I really cannot wait to hear and fetch from the ocean of wealth of knowledge that you have to give concerning investments around clean cooking in Africa. Well, he's not the only one that is going to be educating us today. We have Mr. Ben Odongo. He's the head of ICLEI Africa Clean Cooking Center. Mr. Ben is also an economist, and he has over 10 years of experience in the energy sector across Africa. He has implemented projects in Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, and he's passionate about building sustainable and inclusive energy futures. Trust me, he has a track record of successfully leading multi-country programs. He inspires me, really, he does. As the head of ICLEI Africa, he works at the intersection of government policy, private sector innovation, and community engagement to improve clean cooking access, particularly for underserved urban populations. I did not see him on the call, but when he stops by, he's going to say hi. I really cannot wait to hear from him. But then someone very exciting is also going to be on the panel session, Dr. Jeffrey Biden. Good afternoon, Doctor. I saw you on the call. Your profile is mind-blowing. Dr. Biden is an energy economist with over 50 years experience in transaction advisory, project management, and energy reform. He is the CEO of DC Lafrique, and he was previously the country technical advisor for USAID Power Africa and Power West Africa, and he focused on enhancing sustainable energy access in Ghana. What blows my mind is that his career includes key positions at the Ministry of Energy, the Volta River Authority, and he contributed to significant projects like the Ghana Energy Sector Recovery Program and the country's first nuclear power plant. How amazing. He has worked in various West African countries, and he focused on power purchase agreements and regional electricity markets. It doesn't just end there. He is a lecturer at GIMPA and IEDTM, and he teaches graduate courses in energy markets and development finance. He holds a PhD in development studies and an MSc in development finance. He has so many research that he has published, and trust me, we're going to be learning a lot from Dr. Biden. Dr. Biden, I know I saw you on this call. Please, can you just say hi to us?
Hello, everyone. Happy to join my colleagues within the region. It's going to be a good opportunity to interact and learn different perspective of the African fabric. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Biden. This is going to be a very interesting session because we are going to be talking about the landscape of investments in Africa. We'll be talking about public and private investments. We'll be addressing various challenges. We'll be talking about how to mitigate investment risks. We'll also be talking about innovative financing models. We'll talk about building capacities around clean cooking. Of course, we're going to learn from the experiences of our panelists and then look at what the future has to hold around investments for clean cooking. But before we start having this juicy discussion, we're going to be doing a little bit of poll exercise. So I'm going to be sharing 4 questions with us. And I would really like us to give our contributions. Mr. Anthony, if you're there, could you please help us to share the poll questions? Thank you. So we're going to be doing this for about 10 minutes, 5 minutes, few questions. We just want to know how much you know about financing and investments around clean cooking in Africa. Kindly engage in the polls. This should really help us to know how we structure the webinar. So while we're taking your responses, I would like to give a quick overview of the financial investments around clean cooking in Africa. So we know that when it comes to clean cooking technologies, we have a lot of things that influence the adoption of clean cooking technologies across the African landscape. And most of it has to do with finance. It's either that the users find it too expensive or the manufacturers do not think that the supply and demand actually balance. There are a lot of conflicts about how much profits one can make from clean cooking. We're still waiting for your responses. And so we thought it wise that it would make a lot of sense to bridge that knowledge gap on how people can actually get enough financing and investment around their clean cooking projects so that we can enhance the adoption of clean cooking across African countries. And this is why we thought it wise to have this topic today, just immediately after talking about the alignment between government policies around Africa. So just for 1 more minute, and then we'll move into the panel discussion proper. kindly engage in the polls. Interesting responses, very interesting responses. Okay, thank you so much, Engineer Anthony. I think that we can end the poll session now. Thank you for your responses. All right, so once again, welcome to the 4th edition of 54 Sparks, where we'll be talking about public and private investments around clean cooking in Africa. And I really want to start with Dr. Biden because Dr. Biden has worked extensively on policies, and we know that policy really
Please, if you
affects.
can, please stop sharing for now so that you can see our speakers very well. Thank you.
I should stop sharing my screen.
Yes. Yes, you can go ahead, please. I've just wanted
Okay.
everybody to see the speakers very well.
Amazing, thank you. So I said I wanted to start with Dr. Biden because Dr. Biden has worked a lot around policy research, especially with the Ministry of Energy in Ghana. And I think that his expertise, his experiences would help us understand the key barriers to attracting large-scale investments in clean cooking solutions in Africa. So my question for you, Dr. Biden, what are the key barriers that we have for large-scale investments in clean cooking atmosphere in Africa?
Thank you very much for this very important subject matter. Clean cooking has been an initiative which has been introduced as a measure to address the issue of low carbon emission and also look at the health impact of the individuals that look at it. But interestingly, it would be important to highlight that the issue of awareness and education happens to be a critical issue. Even though you mentioned my experience in Ghana, we were rolling out clean cooking technologies sometime back in Nigeria. And under the project that was being introduced in Nigeria, what happened was the women that were using the existing cooking option didn't really see the relevance of clean cooking. So the adoption and utilization was very low. And so what we did was that we had to get them to have their existing cooking option and a clean cooking stove. And basically let them tell us the quantum of charcoal or fuel they use in cooking. And in this case, it was charcoal. Now they actually confirmed the quantum of charcoal they used to cook. And then we said, okay, let's use this option and see the quantum of what's the name of charcoal that will be used. And it was through that process that they realized that there was a certain level of efficiency, there was a certain level of cost saving, and the minimal impact in respect of even the emission that comes out and to their own health. This actually highlighted the relevance that the issue of awareness and education is not really something that is prevalent, hence affecting the use of it. And if I look at a survey that was also done by Clean Cooking Alliance, they found about 70% of investors are not aware of the potential of returns in clean cooking. Now, in understanding this as well, I looked at it from a demand side and I'm looking at it from a finance side. From the demand side, the benefits is an issue. From the financing side, the importance and the return, that potential market size, that would really enhance a more commitment in the space and make activities be in the space is also another thing that looks at it. Now, beyond that very point, I would move to another point which talks about the costs. Definitely you need the clean cooking technologies to be able to use then to move out. That's how come when you even come to Ghana, we have a clean cooking project that we are undertaking basically to ensure that we have those commitments undertaken. I mean, clean cooking is largely being utilized by people within low income areas. And if you read the IEA New World Energy Outlook for 2023, it indicated about 70% of the Africans still lack the access to clean cooking due to the initial cost of the improved cook stove for many households. So the cost of the technology is very much important and relevant, and it's something that it's actually affecting the utilization of the technology. Now, there are certain regulatory challenges. I mean, we have the regulatory challenge, we have the regulatory framework clearly spelled out, but in other areas, there's a bit of constraints in respect of inconsistent policy across the countries that also hinder both the demand side and on the investment side. And this actually is being highlighted by the World Bank report on regulatory framework in Africa that highlights the need for harmonization of policy. So in summary, I will say that there are three key issues that tends to affect the subject matter you asked, which is inadequate awareness and education, high initial costs, and also the regulatory challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Biden, for that insight. I totally agree with the fact that awareness is a major concern, but this awareness, is it specifically for the users because of the adaptability, or is for investors? Do you think that because the investors are not really aware of the market trends in certain areas, that's why they're not going into large investments? Before you speak, can we have your camera on so that we could actually see who is speaking to us? Thank you. Yes, please go ahead, sir.
So, thank you. So what I want to highlight in this is, I highlighted the issue about the understanding of the market potential. For you to do an investment is actually being based on the commercial aspect of it, based on the return you are going to get on the investment. So importantly, it is not just about addressing the challenge of climate change, but investors are also guided about the return they are going to make in the market that they are going to invest in. So what I was highlighting is in terms of the return on investment, that is major issue. So it's not about just solving the issue of the climate change, about the issue of health, about the issue of reducing costs, but entrepreneurs or developers that would want to sell the technology for clean cooking stove need to be able to highlight the market potential so that you can convince investors as to the return on investments.
Okay, so Mr. Arrigo, he spoke extensively about the markets analysis, the return on investment. I know that you have worked in grassroots communities. Do you think that that is a major reason why a lot of investors do not want to go large scale into clean cooking solutions?
All right, thank you very much. So I would just double check
Kindly
to know
use
if
your
you can hear me.
camera, please.
All
Please, I
right.
see you, please. Thank you.
All right. So I might also want to turn off my camera so network doesn't interrupt at some point because
That's
my
fine.
network is a little bit unstable here. All right. So
That's fine.
all right. Thank you. So I think you when you're looking at investors, you're going to look at the categories of investors. There are different categories of investors with different investment criteria. Some are impact driven. That's when we are talking about impact investment, impact investing investors from impact investment foundations. And we have investors who are looking at who are strictly commercial. So if then we also have investors who come from development finance institutions. So the kind of investors actually matters. It help determine the risk and the reward appetite of these categories of these individuals who is actually investing. So let's take, for example, for a commercial investor, let me use, for example, a PE firm or a VC fund manager, or let's say a commercial bank. You would see that they are strictly led driven by profits. So if there are no clear revenue streams, if they do not have that confidence in the revenue stream that's going to be generated from a clean cooking project, then it is a no for them. They would not invest no matter what. So that's for commercial investors because profits is why they're in the market. But if you're looking at impact investors, yes, impact investment is also commercial, but however, they could at some point compromise a little bit of returns to look at social impact. And we're looking at investment for venture philanthropy investment firm or venture philanthropy investors who are not just looking at the profits, but however, they are also considering the social benefit that comes from their investment portfolio. So you could see these people might be willing to take a little bit of or might be willing to go away from profitability and then look at the co-benefits that comes from investing in clean cooking innovation, irrespective of the fact that there may not be a track record of inflow of revenue. So I think then when we look at development finance institutions too, they provide concessions. So they could also help. Their role is pretty much not as the commercial investors. They also look at being able to crowd in more of private investment into some of this into this sort of project also. So if there is a high risk with investing in clean cooking innovations, they could provide those concessions to be able to de-risk this project and then bring in a more commercial stage in investors to ensure that the commercial stage investors are able to still make a profit from it. So I think just to answer the question, yes, returns, investment return is a key consideration, but the extent or the elasticity of it depend on the investment criteria of the investor, be it an individual or an institutional investor. I think I'll just stop there.
Okay, so Dr. Biden also mentioned that the cost of the technology really affects the kind of investments that come in. And you've also mentioned something very critical, you talked about the kind of investors, and then you mentioned development finance institutions, you talked about impact investors. So if we are going to lay a comparison between the technological advancements with clean cooking and then the kind of investors, what do you think would be more dominating in Africa?
So I think Africa is an emerging market, and there is currently an increase in digital technology coming into the continent, and being able to deploy technology for clean cooking innovations would be able to bring about efficiency within the market as well as within the business models. And this is going to lead to some form of partnerships between tech enabled institutions or innovators, as well as the providers for capital, to ensure that, and as well as also inclusive financial service institutions, to ensure that these technologies which are being brought into the market is able to bring about, one, efficiency, two, it's also going to lead to increase in also going to be able to track the ability of grassroots communities to be able to pay, or to be able to pay for this clean cooking in innovations, as well as within for businesses who might want to leverage the potential of carbon market or carbon trading as a financing source. Those technologies would be able to track the emission savings that comes from these clean cooking innovations, to ensure that the claims that are being made by these developers the claims of emission savings that are being made by these developers are actually true, and that high integrity credit could also be generated from such project. So technology increase the efficiency, it increased the bankability of clean cooking project, and as such also bringing more of investment into this project, because it increases investors' confidence.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arigo. Dr. Biden, I don't know if you agree with that the cost of the technology actually influences the kind of investment that will troop into Africa. Dr. Biden, are you still with us?
Sorry, can you please take the question again? Apologies.
Okay, I was asking if you agreed with Mr. Arigo. He explained that the cost of technology is actually a major influence on the kind of investment that would come into Africa.
Okay. What Mr. Arigo spoke about is very true, and it's actually one critical factor in terms of looking at finance. I mean, for investment in the space, you are looking at the cost of technology, you're looking at finance too as well. You know, there'll be a technology that will be developed within a certain market, but you need to look at the off-takers' willingness and ability to pay, basically to establish the level of affordability. So if the technology price is very expensive, it plays a role on the type of the cost that will end up to the end user. But more essentially, from what he highlighted, type of financing is key. If I have a grant and I'm extending the grant in the space, the cost of the financing is different. If I extend the grant or I extend the funding as a debt facility, to a commercial bank to be able to on-lend in the space, in respect of the guidelines that the banks operate, you would need a collateral requirement. Now, if we look at the targeted population of the users of clean cooking, tell me how many of them would be able to come up with a collateral requirement if it ends up with the bank. Again, if you structure it in terms of it like an on-lending facility with a clear guidelines, its impact is also different because you are clearly defining how the fund will have to be disbursed. When we were doing mini grids as an alternative option, we have prevalence like solar mini grid option. In Nigeria, again, there was an issue of even exchange rates affecting the repayment. So the mini grid funding was actually extended to the central bank to absorb the exchange rate risk and being extended in local currency. So even how the funding is extended would even affect the cost. In summary, I pretty much align with my colleague who just spoke.
I think I would just want to add up to what Doctor has actually said with regards to that, the exchange rate, which is also an issue. Now, when you look at basically most of the debt providers across Africa, be it apart from the commercial banks who might provide debt facilities that that are domiciled in naira or in other local currency. You see, most of other debt providers do provide these facilities in dollars, in hard currency. And from their end, they do hedge their currency based on the fluctuating exchange rates. And we know that the exchange rate would definitely fluctuate. And if it goes, it's never going to go against them. But for you who's getting the facility, you would know that it would go against you. So it's now pretty difficult for you to want to take that kind of or to leverage that kind of debt facility. So even those who actually do it in the end, you see that it's not profitable for you to you wouldn't even get the returns from being able to use or leverage a debt facility that comes in dollars. So it also does affect the cost of the cost of the innovation. And we should also be mindful that the clean cooking innovations are mainly supposed to help households within grassroots communities. And statistics actually show that in Africa, we have over 428 million Africans who are living below the poverty line. And these individuals hardly can boast of 3 square meals. And you're asking these people to transition into clean cook clean cook in cooking in innovations when they do not have the money to even feed. So, and with these sort of models, the cost then become exorbitant, then become prohibiting for them to even go into adopting it. So I think, like Mr. Like Doctor has also stated, the financing model also has a huge or has a significant place or role to play when it comes to grassroots adoption of clean cooking innovations in Africa.
So, do you think that donor interventions are actually more sustainable investments for clean cooking within Africa, given the experiences that you both have mentioned?
Indeed, donor interventions are very, very critical. And that is what is going to bring about a revolution in the space, as well as increase local adoption, as well as also bringing more of private sector investment. Now, a commercial investor would not go to finance a clean cooking innovation from scratch. It's not profitable for him. So he would have to ensure that it has been de-risked to a certain or to a significant extent for him to be able to bring his financing to such a project. And we could also see a significant stride in the space based on what both multilateral as well as regional development finance institutions have been doing. We could see the 500 million USD clean cooking fund, which was set up by the World Bank. We could also see the over 1 billion clean cooking fund by the Africa Clean Cooking Alliance. We could also see the 2.2 billion dollar commitments made by the Africa Development Bank, where they are helping to raise 200 million USD yearly to finance clean cooking in Africa up to 2030. Then, in addition to that, we also have commitment from the French government, which is I think 50 million. Okay, no, I think 100 million dollars, and as well as commitment from no, the government of Norway of over, I think that was 50 million USD. That was during these commitments were all made during the landmark conference in 2024, which was held in France. So with these commitments, you could see that there is increase in donor support to finance clean cooking innovations in Africa. But however, there's still a large gap. It's not sufficient because data has it that Africa needs to bring about a widespread of clean cooking adoption in Africa. We need over 10 billion USD up to 2030. And total commitment has shown that we only have a commitment of over 2 billion USD. So there's still a large gap. Now, this gap could be closed by the private sector. So it is now the private sector to then come in to make this investment. But however, the models must be bankable. If it's not bankable, then we can't see the private sector coming in to invest.
Okay, thank you very much, my colleague. I think donor investments are very relevant, and it's important that as you have highlighted the various experiences, and I'll look at it from a different perspective. One thing we all need to acknowledge as we are on this call and as on this webinar is that donor investment should not be treated in perpetuity. What I mean by donor investment should not be treated in perpetuity is that donor investments basically are temporary funding options that seeks to unlock the constraint of an enabling environment for the issue that we are trying to address to form a systemic part of our national priority. So for that reason, it is important that for the specific countries in which these projects are being identified, then specific countries should be able to align it with its national priorities and be able to understand the market, both from its supplier side, both on the demand side, to make sure that that project or that fund is efficiently utilized. And because we highlighted the issue of bankability, we highlighted the issue of affordability. So the donor funds that we are actually attracting in the space, we should see how best it's addressing some of these issues, such that it actually addresses the bigger issue of the technology transfer, because most of the technologies are also not produced in the space. And so it will be important to also address the development of that technology, or how the technologies can be adapted in a way that it will reduce costs, that will enable the further adaptation in the space. And you see, the further thing that we're speaking about in terms of technology transfer helps us to bridge the issue about the exchange rate issue, about the type of financing, where we can even explore local financing options. We have the pension fund options that would actually be extended in the space, because the benefit of most of these grants are intended for the specific target country. So the target country should also make certain pragmatic steps to have certain matching funds together with the donor funds to further accelerate the investment in the space and for utilization in the space. And so having that donor funding aligned with national priorities is as well. And so demonstrating commitment by specific nations as to how they are also going to have local matching funds to it. This is also very much important. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that insight, Dr. Biden. And I totally agree with you. We shouldn't think that donor funding is the solution to our problem. Rather, it should help us to create an enabling environment for investors to actually come in. But then I'm a little bit worried about how the public sector complements the private sector. I don't know, do we have any successful models around Africa, Dr. Biden?
Thank you very much. Largely from the experience we have in Ghana, we have seen public sector models which are leading the space, basically because of the issue of affordability. And as such, excuse me, we have had public sector led initiative, which has been augmented actually with some private sector model in terms of distribution in the space. But from examples that I have seen yet, is largely with public sector led initiatives.
Okay, Mr. Rigo, do you have any idea? Do you have something you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think for public sector initiative, I think the public sector has to basically come up to see clean cooking as a public health crisis. And then they do have to then integrate this into their energy transition plan at both regional levels. Most times, let's take, for example, in Nigeria, you have only a few states in Nigeria, or basically 3 states in Nigeria, who have worked towards implementing their energy transitioning plan in a very, very sophisticated way. Lagos State is one of those states that have actually done that. And I don't really know if clean cooking is part of it, but however, it should. Then we also see other states that are currently coming up, such as across River State. The government had currently established the Green Economic Council in the states. But however, they've just been established and there've not been any policies. So I think from the point of view of the public sector, it has to be policies that enable project developers to come into the states to develop those projects, and those projects should be backed by the state policy. Now, it also gives credibility to those projects and would also drive financing. Let's take, for example, we had recently a conversation with the Cross River State government when they came to our office and requested that we could actually help them in the development of some of their plans around energy transition as well as green economy. So in this situation, what they could actually do is, after these plans has been developed, and then they have also, through this, after this policy has been developed in a concrete way, project developers would then apply, submit their proposals to the states based on these different commissions. And then these different commissions could then serve as public administrators through perhaps something like a project finance a contract where they serve as public administrators for those project, or they could also through those projects financing instruments such as bonds, subnational bonds, to be able to fund this project within the state, or they could also be able to provide guarantees for the more commercial investors who would be investing in this project. So I think that is the role of the public a sector at the subnational level within a different state, to ensure that they develop first the policies, so that when investors see it and when project developers see it, they could know, okay, this particular state is serious with the policy they have developed. And then through the credit worthiness of these states, they could also be able to drive in financiers or investors to bring in their financing to invest in such a project within the state. So that's going to be the role of the public sector from my end.
I totally agree with that. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Biden.
I wanted to add something to what my colleague said. You can have two evidence of success stories, one in Ethiopia, when you consider some correlation between public and private partnership. You look at the Ethiopian clean cooking projects that they introduced, and that is something you could consider as some successful model that has been introduced in the space. And you could also consider the case of Ghana, where there is LPG projects that actually addresses for clean cooking as an option. So these two country experience is something that we could consider. So the project name in Ethiopia was the Ethiopia Clean Cooking Alliance. It's a collaborative effort that has successfully engaged private investors through structured partnership. And in the case of Ghana, the Ghanaian government and the private companies for LPG has a distribution of LPG to be able to be using for clean cooking. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Biden. Let's go back to the grassroots. So we know that we have a lot of women-led local clean cooking enterprises. How do you think is the best way to help them to access investments and scale up their businesses?
Okay. Like I indicated, we need to have a very structured approach for this initiative, and having that structured approach would have to be treated in different levels. The first thing one will have to look out for is providing some hand-holding service, because a targeted group of persons that are being affected, that needs to be influenced to use clean cooking technologies, have an issue of affordability, have an issue of documentation. So and attracting the financing is not something you could just look at a public service where you will just get people to be distributing it. But again, it needs to be distributed in a way that you can also account for your carbon emission. So documentation is key, and having a structured approach to provide a hand-holding service to be able to get them to provide the right information, the right documentation, and also to be able to provide the requirement which was needed to attract the financing. The other is you should have it aligned to national priority. There should be that deliberate commitment from the specific country to be able to introduce clean cooking as an initiative that is going to be used to address a specific issue. And in doing that, you will get the harmonization from other policy stakeholders for adoption to also take place. You also need to work with funding institutions locally to be able to look at how best they can develop lending products that would assist to be done. You know, in Africa, we have microfinance, rural banks, micro lending options. We need to be able to have these lending institutions adapt low carbon emission lending product as part of their framework to be able to ensure that we have funds available for both developers, which are entrepreneurs, and also off-takers who are subsequently going to get these technologies to be utilized. So these are the key things that I would highlight. Thank you.
I think let me just add a little bit to what Dr. Godfrey had said. I think another area again would be forming women cooperatives, local cooperatives, which is a model we have seen that has the ability to scale. Currently, as an organization, we are working with a few innovators or clean cook stove providers in Nigeria, such as Solar Sisters and Happy Stoves. So what they have done that has been successful within remote communities has been first looking at market community entry. You need to develop strategies for you to enter into these communities. And after you've entered into these communities, your target, mostly you target women, and you are able to develop women cooperatives within these communities, through which you can provide those the clean cooking facilities through, as well as through that channels too. You could also have the microfinance institutions also coming to provide funding to also help with the issues around credit rating, as well as ensuring that the models around non-performing loans, because at some point, some of the clean cooking stoves or innovations you might buy in for these women, some of them may be unable to pay back. But however, if you go through a more structured financial model through the use of these microfinance institutions, they are able to ensure that the non-performing loans, which are being given to these women to finance these clean cooking stoves, are being reduced to a significant extent, as well as secure the business, the entire value chain and the business model. So I think engaging community women using pay-as-you-go systems would also upscale local adoption.
So you're suggesting that we have very conducive business models for the local communities. That way to improve the adoption and then increase the scalability of their businesses. But you also mentioned financial institutions, and we know very well that these women most likely do not have collateral to be able to access these loans. So what do you think would be a motivation for the financial institutions to actually fund clean cooking initiatives in the grassroots?
All right, now these women do not have collaterals, and that's true. So it also becomes a constraint. Now, if you're able to put these women within those cooperatives, then you're able to allow, through those cooperatives, what they could access capitals or financing through those particular cooperatives. So it's no longer an individual responsibility, then becomes a collective responsibility. Through those cooperatives, they could also source for grants to also be able to help provide to offset some part of the costs of these clean cooking innovations. Now, let me give you a pretty good example. Now, when you look at most of impact or impact investment foundations or large foundations that provide grants to sub organizations, what they are always looking at is to ensure that these organizations who are applying for these grants, a condition is that they are integrated within the communities where these where they are trying to solve these problems in. So if this organization who is providing this innovation has the ability of creating this community or this group, has the ability of I'm coming, has the ability of providing this sort of this community group, then you see that they could also use that area to apply for grants, get more funding, and then offset the cost of more commercial funding. Now, another area of another model, again, it's through using these financial institutions as intermediaries, where you create a fund. Now, the fund is a special purpose fund for clean cooking, where the fund is being managed by a microfinance institution, and the responsibility of the fund is to provide financing for grassroots communities who need to, or that women within these communities need to transition to clean cooking innovations or clean cooking innovations. So you provide them with these loans, and you charge as low as 2 or even 1.5%. So it's not a high interest rate. Now you could have a foundation, an impact investment foundation, or a foundation that is willing to make that impact. So what they do is they provide the capital for the fund, and then this capital is being managed by the microfinance institutions. Now, for the microfinance institutions to manage this capital, they would need a management fee. And the management fee might be 1% of the total fund size. So how this is going to be a revolving fund, where the microfinance institution then give the financing from this fund, or gain the financing from this fund to the women within these cooperatives at a 2% or a 1.5% interest rate. And thereafter, when it's being paid back, the microfinance institution could get the 1% for its management fee, and then the remaining 1% or the remaining 0.5%, if it's a 1.5% interest rate, could then go back to the could then be shared between the project developers as well as the Impact Investment Foundation, who is providing the initial capital. So you see that the initial funds still stay in place, but however, the profits from the interest rate that is being charged goes to the microfinance institution, goes to the provider of the capital, and also goes to the project developer. So that is a model that is practicable to be able to upscale this within local communities, as well as lead to profitability for microfinance institutions, just the fact that they may not have to charge collaterals.
To add on to what my colleague just highlighted, like I was saying, as highlighted earlier on, that there should be that national commitment. For investment to properly be undertaken, there's a need to be doing some pre-investment activity that includes structuring of the documentation, structuring of the project, reviewing the documentation, and making sure that people are eligible. Again, as you highlighted, these women don't have collateral. So then there should be a deliberate government project that actually look at directing these stakeholders and actually putting their documentation together to be able to access financing. a case from Cameroon where you have cooperative, a group of stakeholders coming together to even go in for a group loan for microfinance institution, like he has highlighted. But you could have an expertise that would be able to prepare some of these women, group them, and have like a list of projects with its total capital of funds that they require, and be able to assess their willingness and ability to pay, basically to be able to say that, okay, in this very country or in this very location, we have a target population of this sort. That is like doing like a market assessment to know like the real market in this area is about $5 million, $10 million. And if I get funding of this extent, I mean, i.e., you do your appraisals based on the commercial banking, the grant option, the equity option, various options that you have, then at least you know when you are engaging with development partners or donor partners, you have a clear sense of the extent of capital or the type of capital that you're going to use to support the markets that you have and over what period, how payments can be done. And if these women don't have collateral, if government can come in with certain comfort to be able to provide the assurance, basically to de-risk the environment. There's also the other option of designing insurance instruments, basically working with micro insurance or insurance instrument to provide some insurance guarantees or comfort that would allow the investors to realize that if you invest in the space and you extend facility to these parties and they are unable to pay, then you can rely on these guarantees or insurance instruments to be able to de-risk the space. So that coordination will be very helpful to be able to drive impact in the space. Thank you.
So we've been talking a lot about the users and the distributors and the manufacturers. Let's focus a little bit on the investors. I mean, how can they mitigate risks that comes with investments around clean cooking projects?
So,
Mr. Biden.
Okay.
Mine or Arigo? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yeah, okay. So if you're looking at direction investment for investors, I think I'll follow up from what I just ended.
Yeah,
I mean, the first thing that you need to do is the targeted country in which you are looking at expanding clean cooking basically should have a real market that you're going to invest in, and they should demonstrate some evidence of willingness and ability to pay, that the cash flows that would be able to be undertaken. So clearly, a market assessment is key to be able to say that there is there is a country you can invest in. There is a kind of requirement in funding that would have to be extended in this, because what investors are also looking out for is that you don't want to provide funding in a particular country and the funding will be locked up. And if the funds are also locked up, it will attract interest on it, or it will not earn the return for equity providers. Or if it's impact funding, it will not also deliver on the expected result that would then demonstrate impact. So as much as possible, before we would even extend facility in a particular area, there should be a market ready to utilize the funding. And the market ready to utilize the funding basically would also have to make sure that there is a certain comfort to ensure that those investments would be able to be paid back, whether it is a debt, whether it is equity. I mean, we should be able to look at the commercial aspect of it. I say this often and I'll repeat it there. I mean, the fact that we have been able to identify or develop a technology or come up with a program that can address carbon emissions, it does not mean that you'll be rewarded for it by giving you funding. It is not a reward for the technology solution that you have come in, but we need to demonstrate commercial viability of whatever business that needs to be undertaken. And that clear evidence approach in demonstrating that there is bankability for the project justifies why investment can be made, and also providing security in terms of if we are unable to be able to use the money for its internal purpose or business goal back, what would be the fallback option? These are three key things that would be essential for investors. And so there are other external variables like the economic environment in which the business are. I mean, we need to make sure that we are actually giving them that enabling policy to allow them to repatriate their funds back to whatever source that comes through, or how there should be clarity, because most of these funds that we seek to attract to invest in Africa, most of the funds are not domiciled in Africa or are in Africa. Then we also have to work on getting new guidelines to be able to allow local funds like pension funds to be invested in the space. Thank you.
I think let me add up to what Dr. Godfrey had said. He made his points really clear. So we could see clear policy, clear macroeconomic or clear policies, and then clear macroeconomic environments. Then we also need to see that there must be demand for those innovations. Now, it's not a supply side economics, it's a demand side economics. So if the supply side economics tells us that supply creates its own demand, but investors would not go into working based on supply side economics. They would go into working based on demand side economics, that there is demand, and then we could then provide the capital to provide those innovations to meet those demand. So it must be work based on demand sides, clear demand sides economics. Then another important area is the use of guarantees. So we see providing of guarantees for, and this comes in when you're looking at widespread or large scale clean cooking innovation project, like you're trying to provide clean cooking innovations for a very large community. So you could then meet an institution that provide guarantees, such as Infrastructure Credit Guarantee Company Limited, which we have in Nigeria, or perhaps approach some insurance vehicles to be able to get guarantee for such an innovation. Another aspect is the issue of hedging. So you must ensure that for the foreign capital that is coming into the country, that you're able to hedge these currencies. Because now you could hedge the government could actually ensure that, okay, we are hedging this foreign currency for 2 years, we are hedging for 4 years, we are hedging for 5 years to provide confidence against the foreign exchange risks. Now, if you're able to do that, there'll be an inflow of foreign direct investments to financing clean cooking innovations in Nigeria or in Africa. Then you provide also those guarantees to further the this in investment, which is then by clear-cut government policies, clear demand, as well as clear macroeconomic environment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rigo. And I totally agree with the both of you, but I also want to look at it from the aspect of, say, the manufacturers or the distributors having clear KPIs that they could report back to their investors. I mean, if the investors do not see that there is a profit margin that is large enough to contain what they want to invest in, I don't think they'll be encouraged to do that. But then we also need to look at the metrics that would use to measure successes, yeah? So can you give us a couple of metrics that would use to measure successes of projects that have been implemented around Africa?
Is it for me or it's for Doctor? Okay.
It's for Doctor. It's for Doctor.
Okay. I think before I would look at Africa and looking at some successes, I try to look at these areas, but I have examples that can be adapted for Africa. I have examples that can be adapted for Africa, and so If you look in terms of blended finance model for an option to adapt in Africa, we can consider a success of a project in India. The National Biogas and Manure Management Program uses blended finance to mobilize investment in the biogas projects. And this approach has successfully reduced the perceived risks for private investors. And this, if you could read the Global Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves 2018, and also financing clean cooking solution lessons from India. That is one aspect. Now you could also look at result-based financing. Result-based financing is an incentive performance and enhance that funds are allocated based on measurable outcome. And so if you do result-based financing, you could get an example in Bangladesh. And from Bangladesh, you look at the improved cook stove program implemented by the result-based funding to reward manufacturers based on the number of stoves sold and verified by third parties and leading to increased production and sales. And you could make reference to the United Nations Development Program 2017, that is scaling up renewable energy in Bangladesh. Lessons learned from improved clean custos. Now, you also can look at innovative insurance products. And when you talk about innovative insurance product, you are looking at insurance product tailored for clean cooking projects that can help mitigate risk for investors. And you can have considerations like whether index insurance have used to protect farmers investing in biogas systems in India. You could also look at PPP option, public-private partnership, that is collaboration between public and private agencies to leverage on resources and expertise from both sectors to enhance project viability. In Colombia, there's a biogas better life initiative that involves partnership between government, NGOs, and private companies to promote biogas technology, which results to increased investment and project success. And you can reference the Colombian Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development 2018 that looks at biogas for better life, a national program, basically adding the voice about having the national identity to it. Then you can also talk about capacity building and technical assistance that should be directed in the space. This forms part of technology transfer in terms of support in the space, and it's also a form of financing. And so providing capacity building programs can also enhance the ability of local businesses to be able to manage projects and attract financing. And again, in Nepal, the Alternative Energy Promotion Center offers training and support for local entrepreneurs in clean cooking sector, leading to increased adaptation and investment. And so clearly, again, when you look at the UNDP 2018, scaling up renewable energy in Nepal, lessons learned from clean cooking, provides all these options. And this actually dovetail into innovative financing models for the space. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that insight. That's a lot of success story for Africa to learn from. Doctor, if you don't mind, you could just share the links with us in the chat so that we could all read through it and have better insights. Mr. Rigo, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think Doctor has given concrete examples. I would also want to just draw us to the World Bank development scorecards for most of their project funded in Africa. So they funded a whole lot of project when it comes to clean cooking in West Africa through the Energy Management Fund. So they leverage the use of those scorecards, where those scorecards are able to ensure that they give performance metrics to those projects which they are funding, and then expect those project developers to be able to report based on the metrics on those scorecards. So that's also a concrete examples of some of the project in Africa.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Arigo. It's wonderful to know that we have some metrics that we can use in Africa. So Mr. Lovans, who is the director for Institute for Sustainable Energy and Environmental Solutions in Ghana, he said that he has been working on clean cooking projects, and one of their biggest challenges, actually have two major challenges that he thinks finance should address. He said cook stove supply without carbon finance does not become very financially viable. So it's important to secure a carbon project which provide alternative financing. I think that carbon finance plays a lot of roles when it comes to clean cooking solutions. And in our next episode, we're going to be talking extensively about clean cooking and the carbon markets. He also said that most improved cook stove projects is difficult for end users to pay. So most projects are usually subsidized before the end users are able to afford them. And this is where donor agencies come in. So he's asking, how do we leverage these financial securities that you have mentioned to attract investors as manufacturers? Are there clear examples of clean cooking businesses who have received loans or financing to produce and distribute cleaner cook stoves?
Yeah,
Mr.
so
Rigo.
I think I'll give one example from a project in Zambia, which was funded by Green 365. Green 365. So I had a conversation with the chairman of Green 360, or 360 Green rather. So he had mentioned that they are a company based out from Singapore, and they had to finance the clean cooking project in Zambia as well as in some other Africa countries. So what they leveraged was the carbon markets, where they were, through the carbon market, they were able to provide this clean cook stove to women in remote communities for free. So without any payment, they provided it for free. So however, the limitations around this has to do with the policies of the respective uh, 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 government ministries or parastatals who are expected to develop the carbon markets
Mr. Rigo, are you still with us? Okay, I think Mr. Rigo is having network challenges. Dr. Biden, please can you step in?
Thank you, thank you very much for the questions. Lovans, hope you are doing well. I think my colleague has done justice by providing a local experience in that. But most essentially, there are existing investment instruments that are available locally for options in the case of Ghana, where Mr. Lovans comes from. But the critical issue has to do with the cost of funding and the type of securities that are existent, and also the markets, the willingness and ability to pay of the off-takers. And so for which reason the subsidies, as he clearly articulated, tends to be a key issue to be able to unlock these constraints. And so these are things that demonstrate that there's work in progress in as much as there's evidence of impact in other jurisdictions. And as such, it further articulates what I earlier said about that deliberate hand-holding service to support entrepreneurs and developers to navigate through the complexity of the financial system. So I think it's something that further engagement and collaboration could be highlighted. And I'm sure I will further reach out to Mr. Lovans after the call, as he has provided his details for that collaboration to see how best we could support his clean cooking store, because Lovans undeniably is one of the leading advocates for clean cooking in Ghana. and has represented us with a lot of programs in the space. So we'll look at collaborating for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So Mr. Lovans is affirming that we should understand that the clean cooking sector will still be donor funded for a while, and we need to explore possible projects or donors who are able to support and scale cook stoves in Africa. Of course, this is because, like earlier stated, we are still struggling with having an enabling environment. So we can have an enabling environment that investors can have confidence in. I think we will rely on donor support for a while. So having touched the landscape of financing across Africa with clean cooking projects, we've also talked about public and private investments and how they can work together to upscale clean cooking projects. We've talked about the various challenges, financial gaps. We've talked about various financial models that can work perfectly in Africa to upscale clean cooking projects. We've also talked about how risk can be mitigated from the investors to the manufacturers, the end users. We've talked about how we can drive community-driven projects. Dr. Biden has also spoken about building capacity and how it can influence investments in clean cooking. I think that we've had a very rich conversation here, and anybody that wants to invest in clean cooking should have a very, very deep insight of how to go about it. As we are wrapping up for the day, you can also please leave your questions. Always ask questions. Asking questions will keep you in light of what is going on, and it will also clear the doubts in your head. We've also talked about experiences across other nations, not just within Africa. Dr. Biden gave us a lot of situations or a lot of projects that have been carried out in places like Bangladesh, in Cameroon also. And Dr. Biden, please don't forget to drop the link so that we can study more and understand these people's perspective. So as we wrap up for today, just one advice, Dr. Biden, for African entrepreneurs and startups that are looking to secure financing for clean cooking solutions. Dr. Biden, are you still with us? Okay, it seems that Dr. Biden is also having network issues. Dr. Biden,
Hi,
are you here
I'm back.
now?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm here.
So we're asking you to please advise African entrepreneurs and startups that are looking to secure financing for their clean cooking solution. What advice do you have for us?
Technologies that they can afford and be able to help in reducing the carbon emissions. So as we are trying to develop technologies for clean cooking stoves, let's look at not just what technology can achieve, but let's have in mind the off-takers or the users of it, and the fact that they are from locations where affordability is key. And as such, when we are also trying to design programs, let's consider that as well. When we are trying to arrange for funding, let's also consider that we need to make emphasis of the fact that it's not just about making funding available, but let's make funding that can be used and can make the desired impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Mr. Gazzini, Mr. Arrigo, I can see that you are here. So we're asking for an advice for African entrepreneurs and startups that want to scale their clean cooking projects. What advice do you have for them to be able to access finance?
All right, first, I just want to apologize for the network issue. So I think my advice would be first, make your project to be bankable. Ensure that before going into developing your project, do your feasibility study make sure you understand the project, and then leverage different financing mechanisms. Don't just depend on one financing mechanism based on the sales of clean cooking innovations, but go to use leverage grants, go to leverage commercial funding, and apart from just wanting to use to look into the sales of your innovation, learn to provide after sales services too. So you could help in providing after services to these uh, uh, communities to ensure that you increase the amount of revenue that comes to your businesses, is able to give more confidence to project financiers to see that there are multiple streams of income. Then you could also leverage discriminatory pricing too. Some persons might see it as being academic, but however, I think it has a place to also play here, where you are charging those who have more financial buoyancy higher prices, and then you could use that to offset the lower prices you charge to individuals who do not have the ability to pay. But most importantly, stay resilient, stay patient. The market in Africa is a very, very difficult one. So if you don't have that resilience, if you don't have that conviction that what you're doing is making an impact, then you won't be able to survive the market. Learn to reach out to funders, learn to market your business innovation. Funds don't come to you, but be able to reach out to market your innovations, your business more models to funders. Stand in front of their face, their faces. You get rejections, go for an go for another. And I think if you do so, you'll be able to get success in the end. That's going to be my final thought.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arrigo. So we all know now that aside from your tenacity as an African entrepreneur in the clean cooking atmosphere, you also need to be accountable. You need to be able to sell yourself. And of course, you need a lot of resilience because the market is very, very tricky, according to Mr. Arrigo. So we'll be coming to end of the panel discussion. Thank you so much, our panelists. I really, really did learn a lot. So Mr. Lovans is also advising African entrepreneurs that we should develop carbon projects as a prerequisite for scaling your projects. So you should try, I think he's trying to say that you should make sure that whatever it is you're doing, you can account for your carbon emissions. I think that's a great advice because to help you to secure carbon finance. Thank you all so much. I'm going to be handing over the baton to Mr. Anthony. I don't know if he's still on the call.
I
I'll
am
be
on
handing
the call.
over.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. It's been a very insightful discussion. I've listened to Dr. Jeffrey and Gazini, the discussions that have gone on, and I will say I've really benefited a lot from it, especially in regards to how to structure business to be able to access funding and the different funding that is available out there. So thank you very much for these insightful discussions that has gone on in the past hour or so. Thank you very much. And what I want to speak about right now is the opportunities in the clean cooking industry, because we are also, as much as we are trying to create awareness, we are also making sure that companies and organizations involved in clean cooking activities understand or are aware of the funding opportunities that are bound in the industry. Because like the discussion of today, everything is about funding as it is right now. What to scale your business, you need funding. To scale the activities of your organization, you will need funding. So one of the easiest way of accessing this funding is through grants that are available. So one of the first one we have here is the Carbonizing Humanitarian Energy. I think it's a running program it will elapse on the 31st of December this year. And the funding organization is UNITA, and it's open to Nigeria and also Niger Republic. So you can find more of this information on the Clean Cooking Alliance website. Then also you have the West Africa Clean Cooking Fund. This has been going on since last year. The Worthington Companies Foundation are looking for partners and that they can partner with to provide these clean cooking programs across the West Africa region. Then we also have the EEP Africa. That one is closing this month, and it's the funding body is the Nordic Development Fund, and it's in EEP Africa targeted countries. So if you go to their website, you'll find more information on that. Then also we have guarantees for renewable energy investment. It will elapse on the 31st of December 2025. The Norwegian Agency for Public and Financial Management is providing this funding, and it's open to the developing countries as the eligible countries for this. There is also the website for it also that you can check out. And I'll plead with, Esuk and whom that are on the call, when we'll be sending information about of the clean cooking out, these opportunities will be shared so that we can have access to them. Our audience and also our panelists can have access to them. So who is eligible can apply for this funding. Then for Tubero Energy, we do have the third edition of the Africa International Conference on Clean Energy and Energy Storage, which clean cooking is going to be is one of the themes of the conference. So ICES 2025, it got in partnership with the University of Port Harcourt, we bring together policy makers, we bring in experts, we bring in businesses to discuss issues around clean energy in Africa. And to do this with the partnership from the academia, there will be paper presentations, there will be publications of these papers in an index journal, Scopus Index Journal, and currently the paper submission is ongoing and review process is ongoing. The event will happen on the 25th and 26th of September 2025 at University of Port Harcourt in Nigeria. Last year's edition, we saw participation from, I think, 4 other African countries, both in person, and we have virtually from different parts of Africa and different parts of the world. So we encourage everyone to visit the website for the conference, which is ices.com, where you find more information about the conference and how you can participate. And also we are open to partnership and funding for the sponsorship for the conference also. Yes, and the next episode of the 54 Sparks Clean Cooking webinar will focus on clean cooking and the carbon markets. Just like our moderator today said, that carbon markets is going to play a critical role in reducing the risk appetite for, or the risk both for the investor and also for the consumers as it is right now. So we look forward to that discussion. We invite everyone to join us to discuss on this and share their perspectives on this, because like I tell everybody, clean cooking is everybody's business. The As long as you eat any form of food, you should be involved and you should be aware of how and the methods through which these meals are being prepared for us. And we know with this clean cooking webinar, we are trying to tell people that people don't have to die by cooking. We know firewood is harmful to the health of the cook and even to our environment. And so we are trying to look for an alternative. It may be difficult now for Africa, but the more we discuss about this, the more we bring our ideas and success stories, just like it has been shared by Dr. Jeffrey and Keseni, we can learn from each other and see where to improve. And to further this course, we have also come up with the Cook Clean Advocate program, where we are trying to inspire young and local advocates for clean cooking in our different communities. The registration link is there. We've gotten a number of registrations and people who want to participate in this. We are still working on the modules and the operationality of the advocate program. And we're also talking to our partners in the Ep4, the Nigerian Clean Cooking Alliance, I think Ghana also, and a couple of others around Africa, because we want it to be an African drive. Let it be a movement by Africans. As much as, like Dr. Jeffrey said, we should not rely so much on funding, on grants. The grants that we receive should be a catalyst towards self-sustainability for Africa, because if we are not sustainable, if whatever we are doing is not sustainable in financial terms, in economic terms, and in the social terms also, then it will just be an activity in a period. So we encourage everyone, share this Clean Advocate program link with your colleagues, and let's get as many persons as possible to join us in this drive. Thank you very much. Peace, I don't know if I've covered everything. Okay, the link to the registration is on the chat box. You can check it out, and when the report of this webinar will be sent out, we'll also share this with you so that you can have you can share it also with your connections. And thank you again for participating. Thank you so much, Dr. Jeffrey and Mr. Gazini. We really enjoyed this session because it was very insightful, and we know you shared a lot of insights on the financing clean cooking in Africa, drawing in friends from other countries and organizations that have succeeded. So thank you again for your time. And we do believe that when we call on you again, you avail us of your time. And we also want to thank also the team from the Energy Network, because they are part of the organization organizing this. I've seen that Aisha Munu and Dr. Paul have been here over time, and we also saw the coordinator for the Global Coalition for Electric Cooking, GECO. I think Alicia, I saw at some point in time here. So thank you very much. Thank you also to the Veronica Anthony Foundation team who are also supporting this webinar series. Like we mentioned, it's our thing. It's for Africa. So we welcome every form of support. If you're interested in partnering with us, please do not hesitate to reach out to us so that we can work together to see that clean cooking is achieved in Africa, despite the momentous challenge that lies ahead. So thank you again, and Peace, thank you also for your moderation. It was very apt, and we learned a lot from this session. Thank you again, everyone. So, Peace, I don't know if we still have any other thing. If we don't, then when we drop this call, a poll will come out will pop up. So please, we beg everyone to attend to it. And please, if you can stop sharing your screen so that everyone can turn on their video so that we see everybody. Thank you. Yeah, please, if you can, turn on your video. Thank you, Lovan. Thank you, Patrick Mohammed. Thank you, Mr. Gizini. Thank you, Bismarck. Thank you, Gloria Johnson. Thank you, Faithful Ufot. Thank you so much. It's been long connected. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So this edition was live streamed on YouTube. So at any point in time that you need to go back to this discussion, you can just go search for Tuvero on YouTube, and you have access to all the discussions. Thank you also, Portia Addison. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Please, is there any other thing you need to inform our audience of?
Thank you. I really enjoyed your company, and I can't wait to see you guys on the 27th of March, where we'll be exploring the carbon markets and clean cooking across Africa. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.